In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Hello dear friends, I am here with you to continue the Amnasorti 200 series. In the previous session I explained the panorama tab, which is an important tab in this Amnafsor and one that we use a lot. In today's session I want to go over the other tabs for you, except for the skin section, which God willing I will dedicate a separate session to for you dear ones. We carefully select an empty template which provides a clean slate, and then we proceed to import our high-resolution panoramas into it so that we can smoothly continue the entire process together, ensuring a collaborative effort. Very well then, so that I can effectively continue this comprehensive tutorial for you. First and foremost, I need to meticulously connect all of the individual panoramas to each other by utilizing interactive hotspots. After successfully completing that crucial step, I will then proceed to thoroughly explain the rest of the various important items and functionalities to you in detail. It's good to also review the topics we covered in the previous session. Now, we want to create a hotspot for the second panorama, and we do it as follows. I filter so that only the desired hotspots are shown. This way it's easier for me to select. I choose the return option and create my hotspot. In this way the return hotspot is created. I also meticulously edit it, carefully place it in the precisely correct spot, and then add the third interactive hotspot as well. And this particular one is also a return hotspot. I significantly increase its overall size a bit so that it's much easier to accurately click on. In the same way, well, an important point here that I should mention is, first of all, the settings that we can apply to the hotspots themselves. If we select one of them, a set of options will be activated for it in a column on the right, and I will go through each of these settings for you one by one. The first one is the tag. We can define a tag for this hotspot. If we've already defined one, we can select it from our list. If not, we can create a new tag. The next settings are in the action section. Well, using the drag and drop action, we decided to go from one panorama to another. We added this action ourselves here. Now we can also make some settings within the action itself. All we need to do is double click on this section and this window will open for us. So first of all, the first option says on click, meaning this hotspot will work when it is clicked. We can change this to on rollout, which means when the mouse moves away from it, or to on rollover. When the mouse hovers over it, it performs this action, or on hide and on show, meaning when it is hidden, it performs this action, or when it is shown, it performs this action. Our action is also to move to the next panorama, and in this case the best option is to use click. Where should it be displayed? In the main viewer. Hopefully in the skin section I'll explain that we can have multiple viewers. We have one main viewer and we can define several other viewers to display certain content in those viewers. For example, a photo album, videos, 360-degree videos, preferences, or a floor plan. These can each have their own dedicated viewers, completely separate from the main one. The main viewer where this panorama is displayed actually doesn't have anything to do with the film. Since the panorama is supposed to run in the main viewer, and regarding how it should start, we have several options. Here, let me go through these one by one for you. Our start point fix. In the previous session, for our panorama, we set an initial point or a start point in its settings. We define the place where our panorama starts from, and the first time the panorama opens, it is displayed from that spot, and we can see the rest. We can use the start point option by selecting it. We can design it in such a way that when we move from North Panorama 1 to North Panorama 2, we enter that panorama at the view where we previously set the initial point for it, or we can choose the second option, set smart entry view. If we select this, the software will intelligently determine, based on the previous panorama, from which point the new panorama should be entered. This helps to better create the feeling of walking through that 3D space. Personally, I recommend this option. The next option, start interview, is same spot as current media. This means for the current media or panorama, wherever I am at that point, the next panorama will also start displaying from exactly the same spot. Of course, now if you want to select this option, you need to make sure during shooting that the 360-degree camera, where I position its front lens and in what orientation, and actually each time this front lens should be facing the next point where we plan to shoot from. That way we can use this idea and achieve a better and more natural effect in our virtual tour. Also, if we want to do this without using specialized 360 cameras, it will be a challenge. If we want to shoot a 360-degree photo with regular cameras or a mobile phone, we need to pay attention during the rendering stage. The next shot or the next panorama that we're going to capture needs to be positioned exactly in the center of the previous panorama. With the help of those software tools, we can rotate the image and place the next point in the center of the previous panorama. The next option is also custom fix, which we can select. By placing this blue point anywhere on the panorama, we can choose which part of the panorama will actually be displayed as soon as you enter it. I'll set it to start entry view. Pay attention when you change these settings. For example, when you set it to start point fix or custom fix, or change it to any of these options. If after this you want to add a hotspot and assign the open panorama action to it, it will automatically use the same previous settings you applied. So you need to be careful and check. If you don't want all the entry settings for the panoramas to be the same, you need to check each of these actions one by one. Alright, after the actions tab, there's the hotspot properties tab, where you can find the features that this hotspot can have. Apply a sticker. If we enable this, it will be displayed as if it's stuck to this panorama. That means if we zoom in, its size increases, and if we zoom out, its size decreases. But if we uncheck this option, its size will remain constant and won't change when we zoom in or out. The next option is visible on rollover. If we check this, it will only become visible when we roll over it. That means as we move towards it during execution. When we run this, as we turn towards this hotspot, we can see if we have checked this option. The next option is use hand cursor. As I mentioned before, if this option is enabled, it shows a clickable hand icon on the panorama, letting the user know they can click on it. Transport area activated. I'm not sure about this option. Let's see what the guide says. Transport pixels are clickable and will activate the button transparently. Alright, as you can see, this hotspot has a colored section that's visible, and it also has a frame. The frame is transparent, and if I check this option, if it's enabled, this transparent area will also become active, meaning the mouse cursor will turn into a clickable hand and I can click on it. So it's not necessary to click exactly on this arrow. If I click on these corners as well, the hotspot will still perform its function. But if this transparent area is disabled, I must click directly on the arrow, exclude from click, and go mode. Alright, as I mentioned in the previous session, there's a mode that gets activated in the publish section called click and go. I can exclude some of the hotspots from this mode, meaning they won't be included in that mode, as I mentioned. When this mode is activated, the appearance of these hotspots changes and they turn into a series of circles. They become an interactive area, and I can, for example, click around those regions and enter that panorama. It's a good and practical mode, and God willing, we'll discuss it again in the Publish tab. We will talk about it again in detail. The next option is Play as a Loop. You see, this hotspot of mine is an animation and it keeps repeating continuously. If I uncheck this, it won't repeat during playback and will only play once, but I want it to keep repeating so I can see this animation in the middle. So how should it play? It should play on start and never stop. I can, for example, set it so that when I click on it, it stops, or when I roll over it, it stops. Or I can actually, when I click or roll out, it pauses. We can configure its settings and set its start mode to first frame as well. That means the first thing we see is the first frame of this animation. We can set it to invisible so that it doesn't show up at all at the start. After starting, we see this animation. As for these, actually, FPS, I don't know what it stands for. I haven't worked with it so far, so I want to explain it. Opacity is the intensity of the color in this animation. Perhaps this is indeed the frames per second setting. If I were to increase it, it would probably affect the quality. Actually, it specifically represents the number of frames per second for this particular animation. However, it might not work effectively for some other animations though. This is because the actual number of frames per second might not precisely match what we enter at all. And this is the VR distance, which is the distance from this spot to the person who is watching with a VR camera in virtual reality. Is this what they're watching? This is determined by this option, and it's usually set to this value or its maximum. The next option is its tooltip. We can set a guide for this hotspot, which is known as a tooltip in all these tools. For example, here I right click here, so when the person viewing this hotspot moves their mouse over it, the tooltip appears and tells them to click. Now I can change the font of that text, adjust its size, change the background, modify the font color, add highlights, and there are a series of other settings here that, God willing, you can explore yourself. By examining them carefully, you'll use whichever ones you need, so I won't go into them now. And the next option is transform setting. Well, you're already familiar with this, right? We can work with either triaxis mode or free mode. I explained this in the previous session, so there's no need to repeat it. Let's take a look at the tooltip, together the tooltip that we set up. Alright, as soon as I precisely click and interact with this expansive panorama, a comprehensive and helpful guide immediately appears on the screen, providing valuable information. Now, let's carefully go back and diligently continue with the ongoing lesson, ensuring we don't miss any crucial details, okay? The very next tab, which by the way, I absolutely did not have the opportunity to cover in the previous sessions, comprehensive video tutorial allow me to briefly and thoroughly explain this particular aspect to you right now, and then following this detailed explanation, we will seamlessly move on to the remaining portion of the lesson, which will be accompanied by a relevant and illustrative video file. For now, I will proceed to carefully enter the necessary information directly into this designated area, and then meticulously place it in this specific manner, ensuring its proper positioning. Subsequently, it is important to note that the rich verse, in its current operational state, is functioning entirely within a comprehensive and unrestricted free mode. When I select this video, just like with a hotspot, it has a set of settings, but these are more for videos. The properties section here is important, and in this part there's an option for when the video is about to play. Do we want the global music to stop or not? If we select this, whenever there's music playing in the virtual tour, it will stop when the video is about to play. Then there's another option here. Do we want the video to loop, meaning it keeps repeating from the beginning once it finishes, or not? If we check this option, stay at last frame when finished, the video will remain on its last frame when it ends. If we uncheck it, a black screen will appear here when the video ends. Now, when should it play? On click. On start, when the panorama begins, the video plays. On rollover and other settings. When should it end? When the video finishes, or when the user clicks, and now if it's set to end at end, or if it should pause, so the user can pause it by clicking. The start mode can be from the first frame, but this frame should be visible. The rest of the settings are like other hotspots. Now let's move on to the photo album section. In this part we create our photo album. We have a series of 2D photos that we want to display as a 360-degree image album. Let me show you an example. Here we have a photo album, and in a way we can display them virtually in the background. First, we want to create this photo album. We go to the folder where we are building the tour, where we have prepared the photos. We select all the photos we want and import them into the software. Note that this software has a good compression algorithm and can compress the photos while maintaining quality. But if you want to compress your photos yourself first, I recommend the Ice Cream Image Sizer software, which is very good, lightweight and fast. You can easily use this software to compress your photos to any size and quality you want. Its algorithm is very powerful and compresses your photos a lot while maintaining quality. Then you can upload those photos to your virtual tour to increase its performance speed. After importing the photos, a set of settings becomes active that I can apply to my photo album. First, do I want my photo album to be part of my playlist or not? As I mentioned in the previous session, in the published section, we have the playlist. The playlist is a list where contents are played automatically one after another. When a user is viewing the virtual tour and doesn't interact, the software automatically plays the tour and these contents are played one after another. Do we want this photo album to play after panorama number 3 or not? We can even play it before that by simply dragging and dropping to change their order. But do we even want this photo album to be part of these or not? These are 360-degree images, but the photo album contains 2D images. Usually I don't include the photo album in the playlist because when moving from the panorama, you see in all these panoramas we place hotspots and can easily, from those hotspots, the user can enter the next panoramas whenever they want. But when the photo album is played as part of the playlist in the virtual tour, we no longer place hotspots in the photo album. So we have to wait until the entire photo album finishes before we can perform this interaction. Therefore, I go to the photo album section and uncheck the include into playlist option. And as you can see, it's no longer in my playlist. The next topic is stop global music when it plays. Do we want the global music of this virtual tour to stop when this photo album is playing? If we check this option, it's better to select a dedicated music track for our photo album from the Add Audio section below, so that the photo album plays with its own separate music. Otherwise, we leave this option unchecked, so the background music continues to play. If play as a loop is enabled, when you view images one by one and reach the last image, the next image will be the first one again, playing in a loop. Otherwise, the last image will remain as it is, and there won't be a next image displayed in the back. Color. As you can see, sometimes our images have different dimensions, and depending on the display screen we're viewing this virtual environment on, whether it's a mobile screen, a tablet, a desktop computer, or a laptop screen, each of these has its own specific dimensions, so our images might not fit these dimensions, and sometimes we have to have a background behind the image. Now, what should the background color be? By enabling this option, we can set the color of that background. We can choose one of the available colors, or we can use this eyedropper tool to sample from the images we have and see which background generally matches and fits them best, and select that. For example, I want my background to be yellow, matching this shirt, so I bring the eyedropper tool here and pick the color of the shirt, and this becomes the background for all my images, meaning the backdrop. If an image's dimensions don't match the display size, the background of the photo will have this color. In this section, you set the title of the photo album. for example, travel photo album here. I can also add a subtitle for it, though it's not necessary. Here is its thumbnail as well. The software has generated a suitable thumbnail for this photo album, and if I want, I can also go here and import a custom logo or thumbnail, or I can select several options. I also have the option to select one of these images as a single choice. There's also the mosaic option, which is the default, and the next option is click mode. This option is also suitable for the thumbnail of this photo album. Now, moving on to photo settings, we have scale mode here with several options. Here in scale mode, we can adjust the dimensions of the images so that they fit the dimensions of the display screens. We can use these modes. Fit outside, which is the default, means that regardless of the display size, it shows the photo album image as is. In other words, it keeps the image dimensions fixed. If the display size covers the image dimensions, then the image will be visible as is. Fit outside means that the image can extend beyond the display screen, or only part of the image might be shown. Obviously, this isn't very desirable, and it's better for us to change this setting and never use fit outside, because on a phone screen or smaller displays, we might only see part of the image and not the whole picture. The next option is fit inside, which means that no matter what size our display frame is, the image will be forcibly resized to fit entirely within that frame. In that case, we will see the entire image. However, depending on the image's proportions, it might become smaller in order to fit inside the frame. We also have fit to width and fit to height, which means it will only fit to width. This means it will only consider the width of the display and the width of the image and scale the image up or down until it matches the width of the display. Or with fit to height, it only considers the height of the display and adjusts the image's height to match that. Now, if the width goes beyond the display, it doesn't matter. If it fits inside, even better. How long should this image be displayed? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, however long we want. We can change it here. This is the Ken Burns effect. I don't know about this one, but overall, if we uncheck this, the images will be displayed simply without any effect. But if we check this, we'll see these images with a smooth effect. Each image and the next image will have an overlap, which we can adjust more or less by setting this offset. This is actually the effect for how the image appears, whether it's linear, quad in or quad out, meaning whether it enters, exits. We can set these here in this section. There are various options. We can choose from them and also set how the image zooms, whether it zooms into the image or zooms out of it. That's also up to us. We can select that as well. The next setting is for tags, where we can assign a tag to this photo album. And there's also the album action. While sometimes we might want to, when this album appears or is clicked on, for a specific action to be performed as well. And we can set that action here in this section. What action do we expect? That's also available. We don't need to deal with that. And the last option is the audio album. As I mentioned, if we want to assign a separate piece of music for the album, we can select the audio or background music from this section. That's all for the extensive photobook discussion. Just one crucial part still remains. Well, maybe, because we still don't have another viewer to display our content. It hasn't appeared here yet. We should have had another setting here as well. One that would actually let us choose in which viewer it should be displayed. When we come to the screen section, the viewers of this view, this is the main view viewer. We can also design other viewers for it to display other content. And if we have a new viewer, let me create a viewer here to see if that option appears or not. Yes, it showed up. Well, now because I define a new viewer in the screen section. So in the photo album section, this option was also added for me, which means for this viewer, in which viewer do you want it to be displayed? In the main viewer or in viewer 2. So now when we want to set this up and play it, we can select this. For now, I'm selecting the main viewer because I don't want this photo album to play yet. That's because in order to play this photo album, we need to do some designs and customizations in the skin section so that we can play and close the photo album and actually be able to view the photos one after another. We can click next to see the next photos, which I will explain in the skin design section, God willing. Difference. The next tab is the video tab. As I mentioned, all the videos we upload to this virtual tour will appear in this section, and we can adjust their settings here. The settings are similar to those in other sections, and you are already familiar with most of them, so I won't repeat them here. The next option is the 360-degree video, where we can import our 360-degree videos into this section. I have already prepared a 360-degree video here in advance. I can easily import this particular item, and it can also be seamlessly included within my existing panoramas. In fact, I have the capability to establish a dedicated hotspot that will conveniently open this immersive 360-degree video experience specifically for me. Let's go to the panorama section here. For example, in my very last panorama, I can easily create a prominent hotspot so that my immersive 360-degree video content opens up seamlessly. I place an arrow here, and the action I define for it is that I want my 360-degree video to open. In this way, when it's clicked, it opens in the main viewer, and just like that. Alright, then let's proceed with the next step. Notice that I can also go into the 360-degree video itself and place a hotspot so that I can return to the panorama I had. For example, in this part I can place a hotspot. Again, I will place the very same arrow right here so that by simply clicking on it I can easily return to the exact panorama I was previously in, like this. Alright, let's go and watch to see what kind of output we have. So why isn't this hotspot working? Let's go back and check. Panorama 3, hotspot, and its action is a 360-degree video in main viewer. Smart entry. Alright, it should work. Let's go again, and this time in the browser. Let's review it. Well, it doesn't even turn into a hand cursor. Probably in the skin section, the viewer we created is overlapping our hotspot. I'll delete this. Now let's go ahead and actually preview it to thoroughly see if it genuinely works this time around or not, and observe the outcome. Yes, that was the issue. that viewer would appear here and cover it. We couldn't click on it. Again, why didn't it play hotspot? I didn't assign an action to it. Action, open 360-degree video and select. Preview it the same way. I apologize. Now, at this moment, my video should indeed play. This is a 360-degree video. It was shot from a spring, and by clicking this hotspot, I can go back to my previous panorama, just like that. Alright then. We've now covered the 360-degree video section as well. For you, dear viewers, all the settings that were previously available for panoramas are also here for these videos, which you're already familiar with, so there's no need to repeat them. Now, let's move on to the floor plan section. Here we can create a floor plan for the location where we're making the virtual tour, or if our location is an outdoor space, a large area, we can create a map for it. An aerial map that shows the positions of the points where we've taken photos, so that by clicking on those points, we can enter the panorama of that location, and also show, as we rotate and look around the place in the panorama, exactly how it appears at that point and which direction we're facing on the map. And this is a feature that's included in the floor plan section of this software. Now, if we want to create a floor plan ourselves for buildings, if we don't have the buildings plan and want to make one ourselves, after I explain these steps, I'll introduce a very simple and lightweight software for you, dear viewers, with which you can draw your desired floor plan using the available tools inside that software. First, I import the same floor plan that I created into the software, and in this way I have that floor plan. Basically, it's the map that I drew. Now, for this room, the place where I took the panoramas isn't very precise, but in a simple way I brought it in and placed the spots where the panoramas were taken like this. 3 windows on this side, 3 windows on that side. There were also 3 windows on this side, but I didn't add those because this door also had a slanted wall here, which I ignored, and I drew this simple plan just so I could show you the positions of those points and explain how the floor plan works and how you can interact with it. First of all, let's go over its settings. If we have multiple floor plans in our tour, we can assign a separate name to each one, and we can also change its thumbnail. What should its scale mode be? Should it be fit inside? Should it be fit outside? Or how should it be? It's better to set it to fit inside so that the entire floor plan is visible in our viewer. The scene viewer can be displayed either in the main viewer or in the floor plan viewer. The software itself will create a default viewer for it and prefers to display it there. Should its movement be draggable or fixed in place? It's better if it's draggable, so we can move it around with the mouse and zoom in and out. Inside it, how should the radar rotation work in it? Look, as you see later, these points that we designate as panoramas, there's a halo around it. A directional halo that shows which way the radar is pointing, in other words, which direction the person in the panorama is looking. So now in this part, it asks how should the radar rotation work. Should the field of view rotate, or should the entire floor plan rotate? If it's set to field of view, that halo rotates around the spot and shows the direction we're looking. If it's set to map, the halo stays fixed and the entire map rotates to indicate the person's rotation. It's better to set it to field of view. I'll show you this change on the floor plan once I've created it. How should the export settings be? What should the quality of this floor plan we've created be like? it doesn't really matter. Since its size is small, it's fine even if the quality is set low. At a small size, it will have enough clarity, so it's not that important. There's no need to change it. We can assign a tag to it and specify what action it should take if necessary. When we click on the floor plan, what action should happen? We can select any desired action for it if we need to. For example, with a single click, it could hide itself. We can do this. With these actions, we actually select the action, and let's see if it's in the height component section. Yes, in the height component section, we can change it like this, meaning it won't be displayed, though I don't want to remove these right now. I don't want there to be any action on it. Then again, in the settings section, the zoom settings, where you can set the minimum, maximum and initial zoom, as well as general radar settings, which you can also configure in the radar zone section. But here we can set the settings for all those radars. Now, what is a radar? Let me first explain that we need to define the calculations. In the hotspot tab, we come from the plan and select the hotspot. I select this blue point and place the first point here. I'll make its size a bit smaller. I can increase the number of these by copy pasting, or I can insert it again from this section. I prefer to copy and paste and create my next point, and in the same way the next point. Alright, I'll assign an action to each of these one by one. The hotspots are set. I don't want any tags. I want to assign actions to them. The action I want the first hotspot to perform is to open panorama 1 and open it as a fixed start point. That is the starting point I set wherever it is. Again, the action for the second hotspot is panorama 2, and the action for the third hotspot is actually panorama 3. In this way, we can configure the hotspot properties in this section. Show the hand cursor. Its scale should match the map. Basically, if the map is zoomed in or out, should these also scale accordingly or not? Should their size remain fixed? Transparent area should be active. That is, you see this circle also has transparent area around it. Should this area also be active for clicking or not? We want it to be active. Visible on rollover, meaning it becomes visible when we roll over it. We don't want this. We want it to always be visible. Tooltip, we can also set a tooltip for it here. For the first one, I'll just put click here, so that when the mouse hovers over it, the user knows they should click on it. The rest are transform settings, which are about the dimensions, sizes and positioning, but we don't need to deal with those either. Alright, now we've placed our hotspots and we need to move on to the radars. We have 3 hotspots, so we can have a radar for each of them. So I'll click on hotspot number 1. I'll add a radar to it. This way a halo is created here, but right now its size is too big. I'll make it smaller like this, and the direction it's facing is incorrect. I'm looking in this direction, so I'll rotate this toward this point. I can also set the outside or the border of that area, like how much opacity it has and what color it should be. If I drag it all the way, the border of this radar will turn black. I don't need this border. Now I'll add the radar for the second hotspot as well, and again the second hotspot will be like this, and the third hotspot will be like this too. Okay, I've added the radars. Keep in mind, for each hotspot I can change the size of the radar and set it to whatever size I want. And in the list section I can also apply a setting to all my radars so that all of their sizes are the same. That's all for the floor plan. And now let's preview to see what the software has created for us. All right, we're at the first hotspot. We want to look in this direction. We want to go into this second hotspot. So we proceed like this. All right, I placed the position of this first hotspot a little incorrectly. I'll go here and correct it in the hotspot section as well. Let's say its exact position is right here, or let's say here. It doesn't make a difference. I'll preview it again, and yes, this is better now. I can go straight to the third hotspot, and as you can see, we can also view this floor plan in this corner. Now we can make it so that it's not always displayed here, only when we want it to appear. We can design a button for it so that the floor plan appears, and then by clicking the button again, it closes. And these are the things we can do. Unfortunately, first I need to explain the theme or template design section to you, and in that part we can do these things. Well, that's all for the floor plan section. The next tab is the Publish tab, which I gave a bit of an introduction about in the previous session. In this session, I'll go over the rest of its sections. As I previously mentioned to you, right here we can easily enter the specific project title. 3DVista Education. It's in 3DVista Education. For its detailed description, for example, you might find something like lesson in the second course, and its settings as well. And next I'll go through each of these settings one by one and explain their concepts to you. Display tooltip on touchscreen. Should the tooltips and guides we've created also be shown on touchscreens? For example, on a mobile page, which is a touchscreen, should they be displayed or not? Enable mouse wheel for zoom. Should the mouse wheel be enabled for zooming or not? Enable background preload. This is a good option, and I definitely recommend checking it. Although it might use a bit more internet for the user, what it does is preload, meaning it loads content in the background at the start. When you are actively viewing content number 1, the intelligent software automatically preloads content number 2 and content number 3 in the background even before you actually go to view them, so that it can play them much more quickly and seamlessly. So definitely try to check this option. If you check mute sound at start, the music will be muted at the beginning, and you'll have to unmute it yourself if you want during the virtual tour playback. I usually uncheck this option. I don't want it to be muted. I want the music to start playing automatically right from the beginning. Toggle full screen on double click. If this option is enabled, double clicking on your virtual tour will make it go full screen, which is a useful feature. The next option is start with little planet effect. This adds an effect to your virtual tour right at the start. At the moment it starts, it actually turns your tour into a small planet, displaying it as a sphere, and as soon as it begins, that planet opens up and your 360-degree panorama is revealed. This is mainly for showcasing outdoor spaces. It's really nice because of the combination of the sky's colors and the greenery of the trees and so on. The little planet effect makes it look like a miniature Earth, giving it a beautiful appearance. However, it's generally not recommended to use this effect for indoor spaces. We can also use this effect inverted or in reverse. For now, I've checked it so you can see how it looks. Delay display time determines how long it will be shown. Flight time refers to the duration it takes for the planet to open up and be displayed as a 3D 360-degree image. You can adjust how long this takes in this section, and with this slider you can change how far or close it appears, whether it's very far away or very close. The next settings are the navigation settings. By checking this enable gyroscope option, we can activate the gyroscope. This is for devices that are equipped with a gyroscope, such as tablets and mobile phones. If this option is enabled, the viewer can move or rotate their mobile device and see all directions of your virtual tour without having to touch the screen or manually rotate the tool. If I uncheck this enable 3D transition option, the 3D transition effect that exists in this software will be disabled, and you will simply move from one panorama to the next without experiencing that feeling of walking through a three-dimensional space. Therefore, it's better to always keep this option enabled. The next option is the enable zoom option. Basically, do you want to allow zooming in your panorama, or do you want to prevent zooming by checking or unchecking this box? You can control this setting. The next option is use click and drag control mode. If you uncheck this box and take a look, well, you saw the little planet effect, which didn't really look much like a little planet. That's because this is an indoor space. This effect isn't very useful here. Notice that now you've unchecked the click and drag option, and you can no longer drag the way you used to. Whichever direction you try to drag, your panorama moves in the opposite direction. So it is generally better to have the click and drag option thoroughly checked, so that you can easily and precisely grab it with your computer mouse. That way you can move the panorama in any direction you want. Let me go ahead and invert this little planet effect as well. You can also see it inverted. This is how it looks when inverted. One starts from the ceiling, the other starts from the floor. And take a look. When I had the click and drag option unchecked, whichever way I moved, my panorama would move in the opposite direction. But now I can grab this and drag it in any direction I want. The exact same checkbox exists for the touch mode as well. Look, the next option is use touch and drag control mode. If you uncheck this option in touch mode as well, that is on the phone screen, we'll have the same problem again. We can't drag and it moves in the opposite direction. For example, if we drag to the left, the panorama rotates to the right, and vice versa. The next option is the control with cursor option. If this option is enabled, we can also control the panorama using the keyboard keys. If it's not enabled, we won't be able to do this. This option is checked, so let's see. I'll remove the little planet effect, and now let's see how we can control the panorama with the keyboard keys. I mentioned this briefly in the previous session. By pressing the left and right keys, you can rotate within your panorama, and when you're facing a hotspot, by pressing the up key, you can enter the next panorama. Also, by holding shift and pressing up, you can look upwards. By holding shift and pressing down, you can look downwards. You can zoom in by pressing the E key and zoom out by pressing the Z key. If you uncheck this option, you will no longer have that feature and you won't be able to control the panorama with the keyboard. It's better to keep this option enabled. Alright, the next checkbox open in the same spot means that when this playlist is playing, that is when you arrange these panoramas in order so they play as a playlist. If the user doesn't interact with the system at all, well, if this particular option is carefully checked, if it is indeed enabled, it specifically means that each individual panorama, when it initially starts playing, will always begin playing precisely from the exact initial point you have carefully selected and designated for that specific panorama. Otherwise, the panorama will automatically rotate through panorama number 1, and wherever it ends, it will then move into panorama number 2, and using Smart Dynamic mode, will start rotating from that point. The next option is use click and go mode. If you enable this, a set of additional settings will appear for you. As I mentioned before, if click and go is enabled, your hotspots will change. So I've enabled it now. My hotspots have changed shape accordingly, turning into circles with an area of effect radius. You see, wherever I click within this area of effect, I'll enter the next panoramas. And now you can control the shape, opacity, color, and other properties of these circles here. First, whether this sensitivity radius or area of effect should be shown in the tooltip or not, and whether the hotspot should appear as a circle, be visible as the hotspot itself, or be completely invisible so that nothing shows and you just click to move forward. How much should its opacity be? What should its color be? And in the selected state, how much should its opacity be and in what way should it appear. Should it have a hover effect, meaning when we get close to it, should it react to hovering, should its color change or not? These are the settings we can configure for Click and Go, and I'm going to uncheck it. I don't want us to have it. We have other settings for video settings. Here in Edit Playback Bar, we can edit the playback button, change its color, and adjust its size. If our video has subtitles, we can adjust the font settings, size, and other related options for it. We can set its color, the background color, and actually assign a tag for the entire tour as well, which I'll close now. The next option is VR settings, which I haven't worked with much because it's related to virtual reality cameras. I don't have much information about these settings, so I won't explain them. The next available option is background music, and I can also carefully select a background track for this tour. I will go to this specific section and upload the music I previously selected right here, and in this way I will close this section as well. I haven't worked with the next options, the social settings, and I don't have any information about them, so I'll close this as well. As for text to speech, again, I haven't worked with it, unfortunately, so I can't say anything about it. And the same goes for cookies and policy. I don't have any information about those either. Alright, so the topic of publishing both the Publish tab and the Publish option here has come to an end. And we can say that we've covered the important parts of this software for you. Now we want to take what we've created and export it as an HTML file or other formats, which we'll discuss in this section. If I click the Publish button down here, I'll enter a page like this where I can create my tour in different modes. The first option, which I briefly mentioned in the previous session, if checked, means that I want to export for the web in such a way that it is compatible with Windows, Macintosh, and Android, and works well with them. And in this section, there are some settings that allow the software to optimize the virtual tour for certain specific devices in case it is going to be used on those devices. Otherwise, we can uncheck those options. Also, if you want to use it for distance learning, we can do that. If this tour is going to be used in LMS systems, we enable this option so that it can be played on those systems as well. But for now, we don't need to deal with it. Export for iOS legacy. We can select this so that our virtual tour is also usable on the iOS operating system. Export video in adaptive mode. We also check this option, and there are some settings here as well so that the video is played adaptively at different resolutions depending on the internet quality and speed that the user or viewer has while watching our tour. And actually, the size of our virtual tour, the size of the generated virtual tour package increases a bit. However, the playback speed becomes faster. Why? Because based on the viewer's internet quality, it selects and plays the appropriate video for them so that it isn't too heavy and doesn't cause playback issues. Because 360-degree videos have a very large file size and usually consume a lot of internet bandwidth during playback, and if the internet speed is low, it will cause problems. Display download message for offline playing. If you check this option, anyone viewing your virtual tour online will also see a download option, allowing them to download the entire virtual tour package and watch it offline later. I'm going to uncheck it. Optimize image. I strongly recommend that you check this option so the software will optimize and compress the images, which will both reduce the size of the virtual tour and increase its loading speed. Alright, let's move on to the other options. If we check this option, we can upload our virtual tour to Cloud 3D22, but since we haven't registered here, we first need to log in, and because our software is cracked, this option won't work for us. The next option is the standard player, where the software also gives us an exe output. It can be readily played on both Windows operating systems and Macintosh computers. For users on Windows, we have the capability to apply the absolute maximum compression settings to ensure that the resulting file size is made as incredibly small as is genuinely possible. If we carefully check this particular option, we can directly produce our virtual tour as a comprehensive 360-degree video for platforms like Facebook and YouTube, and subsequently upload it to those respective sites, which in many cases is not particularly suitable. In fact, it will automatically play the playlist we created, turn it into a video, and then it can be uploaded to sites that share videos. We uncheck this option, and there is also an important section for publishing and uploading to Google Street View. I need to explain this part separately in another video for you, dear viewers, to show how we can use this feature within our country and directly upload the photos we've taken to Google Street View on Google Maps. So for right now, I just want to create an executable file, specifically an exe file, and only for the Windows operating system. I absolutely do not want it to be made for Macintosh systems at all, and also I need to generate a suitable and compatible file for the web environment. Where exactly should I place this newly generated file? I will also precisely specify its designated folder location. I've already created the publish folder. I'm going to select it. In this section, as I mentioned before, you can add an icon. Just make sure that this icon is square and exactly 512 by 512 pixels, because later this icon will be displayed in the address bar of the browser for your site. There you can see this icon and you can add it from this section. For now, I won't do this because I haven't prepared a suitable image for it yet, and I don't want to waste any more of your valuable time. Alright, let's go ahead and click publish. So our tour will be ready, because it's going to optimize the images. It might take a lot of time. Even though, as you know, the image sizes are small, I'm going to pause the video. Once it's done, I'll come back to you, dear viewers. Alright, my virtual tour has been successfully published. Now, I'll go ahead and show you the items that have been published. First, let's take a look at this HTML web version. As I mentioned in the previous session, we need to view it with 3D22 viewer, and all we have to do is take the folder containing the virtual tour and drop it into the viewer so we can see the tour we've created, just like this. Now let's go back and open its executable version, which is an exe file. We can copy or cut this version independently, paste it somewhere else, and it will run on its own, like this. It doesn't matter which system we're running it on. In fact, it doesn't matter whether 3D22 software is installed or not. This version runs completely independently and doesn't require the internet at all. It works entirely offline on any system where you paste it. Of course, keep in mind that I had unchecked the Mac option here and only published this for Windows. Well, friends, thank you for staying with me up to this point. In the next session, I plan to talk about uploading panorama images to Google Maps and Google Street View. And in the session after that, I want us to discuss in detail the skin and template design section in the 3D22 software. Thank you for your hard work. Goodbye and take care.